Hello and welcome. This is It's Always About Love, and I'm life coach Lee Evans. I'm here with psychotherapist Lynne Lara. Lynne has been in private practice for many years, and today she brings all of that experience and wisdom to help you. We are here to answer all your relationship questions. It's our desire to help you and make what you learn from this podcast usable in your life right now. Do you have a situation that's bothering you? Email us at its always about love, the number 1 at gmail.com. Now let's get started. Are you there, Lynne?
Yes, Lee, tell Portugal welcome. Bienvenidos. That's not Portuguese, but I just was hoping Spanish might reach them a little bit. But tell them that we got
have
Portugal.
a new country, and we want to thank Portugal, our listeners there. Thank you very much. Mucho gracias.
Yay.
Mucho gracias.
Yay. That's great. And bienvenidos is welcome. In Spanish, though, and you just spoke Spanish, too. We should be looking these things up, you know?
You're right.
Yeah, it would be good. Well, it gives us something to think about. So, and speaking of thinking about, last night, do you know the television program Stephen
I don't,
Colbert?
but maybe the listeners.
You don't? Well, I don't know if he's out there, but it doesn't matter because one of the guests he had on was someone who knew Robert Kennedy, Bobby Kennedy, when he was alive. And it was a very touching program, and it made me think about things. And I want you all to know that the man who killed Bobby Kennedy, who shot him point blank range, was a man named Sirhan Sirhan. And that when I was at, what's the name of the prison? Soledad Prison. Soledad State Penitentiary or something. The warden was walking me around the prison and wanted to just show me some different complexes that they had. And we walked into one, and it was for people who had to be taken away from the rest of the people in the prison, for men who had to be taken away, segregated from the rest of the prisoners. And he didn't say anything when we went in, but he said, this is for this and this is for that. And I looked up above, and there stood Sirhan Sirhan, the man who shot and killed Bobby Kennedy. And I watched Sirhan. It was a very strange encounter because we connected with each other. He isn't someone that I would have wanted to connect with, but I had no choice because that's what happened spiritually between us. As I looked up, he was on the second tier and looking directly down on me. Then Stephen Colbert talked to the fellow. Geez, why am I forgetting who the guest was? I could look it up if I'd had a little bit more time. I just got home. And Stephen asked him to please read something that he'd had inscribed. And it was something that Bobby Kennedy said. What Bobby said was that we must always be doing good. We must always being there to try to help someone else. And, it made me think about, Lee, it made me think about helping
Really?
Estranged parents. Sure. Yeah. Well, think about it in your own life. And I thought about you, but I thought about the other people that I've helped who've written letters to me and said, "You saved my life." Gosh, I've gotten many of those. "You saved my life. Until I listened to you talk about parental estrangement, I didn't care whether I lived or died." It's a very serious problem that we live with. For those of you who don't know what it is, older adult children in our country and around the world, it is not just here in the United States at all. It's happening all over the world in every country there is. And what's going on is that adult children are turning away from, rejecting their parents. So you have a parent who's in her 80s. I talked to a woman about this today at the doctor's office. She's in her 80s, and she has no family because her only child, who's an adult now and has children, doesn't want anything to do with her mother. How sad. And that woman has nothing left to live for. She raised her child, and this is the last thing she ever thought would happen. I want all of you to know that I also, yes. And I'm going to say you also, Lee. Is that okay? Because if it isn't, we have to start the program over. Both Lee and I, and that's how we met.
I was having a really rough time with it.
You
I was
wrote to me?
A real low point, and I was trying to fix something that I didn't even realize or knew how it even got broken. And it happened all of a sudden. It took me totally by surprise, but it totally devastated me. And it was when I found you, because I went online to try to find some kind of information. I was looking every way I could to try to find an explanation, something to tell me what had happened and how to fix it. Because I couldn't deal with it. And that's when I found your YouTube videos. Right.
Mm-hmm. Under Lisa Logan, I was using a different name. Yeah, and Lee wrote to me. I wrote back. I liked her right away. And eventually, I invited her to join me on It's Always About Love, which is what we're doing now. We spend a lot of time on helping those of you who want to fall in love and stay in love. And listen, I'm all for that. But it doesn't have the impact, even with one person, that what the program that I had before is called Forsaken Parents. And you can go on to YouTube, and I had about 200 videos. I've taken many of them off. I think I have about 20 or 30 left, and I would make some more too. But I remember sitting there crying while I was making some of those videos as I talked with people and thought about how much pain they were in and how much I cared about them. Listen, I care about all of you. I want to help you fall in love, and I want to help you stay in love, and so does Lee. We're having a great time. I'm just talking about the deep need there is.
Yes,
Both Lee and I are estranged parents. My own estrangement began the night that my first grandchild was born. Did you know that, Lee? Yeah, now he's 21. I was not, I was not totally, it got so much worse. But in the beginning, it was just my daughter and my son-in-law talking to each other without me being there. I couldn't get over to help her have the baby. And she had said, "Mom, I can't do this without you. You've got to come." And I said, "Of course I would," but it was one of the worst snowstorms they'd ever had, and I couldn't get over the pass. So, but the two of them got to talk, my daughter and my son-in-law, and they talked about how they wanted, especially my son-in-law, how he wanted their life together to be. And it never was about me. And, I would have been okay with that. In fact, when I sort of found out that things were changing, because I felt it and I experienced it, I worried a little, but I went, no, they're just going through having a brand new child, and they need to be closest, of course. I meant that. They needed to be closest with each other. I had no idea that I was going to be kept away from any of that. So I have 2 grandchildren who really have very little respect for me because they've been taught that I'm not important. And I have many very important things to teach them. But I'm not a part of my family. I have no more contact with my family. And that makes me sad. God, I miss them.
Was it Brian Williams? Was it Brian Williams by chance?
And so,
Brian
Lee,
Williams?
as I listened to the fellow talk with Stephen Colbert about Bobby
I'm still on
Kennedy,
here.
and then Stephen had whoever the
I'm
fellow
thinking it might
was.
have
I
been
know
Brian
who he
Williams.
was, and I'm sorry, I've just blocked
I'm
out
not positive.
his name or
Chris
his
Matthews.
face.
I take it back because I was looking it
No.
up when
Do you
Chris
have that on?
Matthews. Was that
I
the
don't
guy?
think so.
Okay.
Unless I just have the wrong person. Does it show that as you look it up? That's who was on last night? It was his first. He had Nicole Kidman and someone else. Uh-oh. Lee. Right. Yes, and he's a newscaster himself. Okay. Yes, Chris Matthews. And Chris was, he's a fellow with blonde hair who is probably in his 50s. Yeah, he had a great deal of respect for Bobby Kennedy, and that's President John Kennedy's younger brother, as did Stephen Colbert. Oh, how sad. Anyway, I was touched by it, Lee, and I wanted to talk to you about it all day long, but we didn't really connect with each other. And then I thought, well, I'll just talk about it when our program comes on. My heart, of course, I want to help you all. I do. I want you to fall in love forever. And I've been doing it. Lee didn't tell you. I've been in private practice for 40 years. That's a long time. 30 for real, and then I started switching over to the internet. But when I became an estranged parent myself, I began to write a book. One of the things that happened was I never finished that book, and I had a group of women, many women. I'm sorry, they were all women who identified themselves as devoted Christians, but they all accused me of being a liar, saying that I was not a person who had the education I said I had, that I had never been in private practice. I mean, it just went on. It nullified everything I had ever done. It made it more difficult, but I continued on, and I saw one of the pastors that would have been at a church, because it was evangelical Christians who were doing this to me, and he was very disturbed. He said, "This is wrong. You're giving, and that's what Jesus wants us to do." And then I went to see a Catholic priest, and he said, "Lynne, you really think that this is happening to you, don't you?" And I said, "Well, yes, it is. They attacked me." I mean, I had one woman who wrote and said, "Get on your knees." and beg Jesus to forgive you for lying the way you're lying. You have no right to do that in his name. And I'm like, yes, I'm not charging any money. I'm not lying. I'm giving. What are you doing? What are you doing? All of you, probably several hundred women. And it was hard. It hurt, but it happened. It's the way it is. But I also know that I reached a lot of women and men who were desperately in need of advice, talking about that it exists. So many women said, I thought I was the only one it was happening to until I watched your videos. One woman wrote and said, this is the night I was going to commit suicide, and for some reason I found your video, and I can't let it down. Thank you, you have saved my life. I mean, it just went on and on and on. I was so grateful. I can't tell you that it helped me, because I lived their pain and my pain as well. But I didn't mind
I'm not
because
really sure for
I knew
for
I was helping them. And that's why we're here, folks. I hope you understand that. In this lifetime,
in what Jesus said,
every one of us is
love
here
one
to
another
learn to
as
love.
yourself.
We are here
Amen.
to learn to love. It is not just
Paraphrasing.
Jesus who said that. He said, Lee, what did he say? Okay. That's okay. Say what you believe he said. It's okay. As I have loved you. Yeah. Now, but it also turns out, love one another as I have loved you, or as I have loved you. But it isn't just the Christian faith. It's in every major faith there is. Buddhism, Jainism. How many am I going to be able to recite? Every single one of them says, love, love, love. That's why you're here. So it's terribly important. And some of you don't know. I don't think you've heard one of any of the messages that I've given that have been about my own out-of-body experiences. So, and I'll do that again sometime soon. But Lee, I feel like I'm just saying the right things right now. And I know that we have someone's letter. And I don't want to leave you, but I felt such a need when I listened to what I heard last night from Bobby Kennedy. I also, by the way, very much respected him. Of everyone in his family, he cared the most. He wanted to help people. John Kennedy was a beautiful man. He was more political than Bobby was. Bobby's heart showed. It's such a tragedy that Sirhan killed him. Such a tragedy. What would have happened in our world had we had that man, Bobby Kennedy, to lead us? So I'm very sad about that. But
yes, we were.
Those were his words. Whatever you do, make it count toward helping other people. And the help, Lee, that you and I give, more than any, because it's a matter of life and death, is the help about how parents suffered terribly for something that isn't their fault. I will assure you, especially because you know Lee and I, we were good mothers, both of us, right, Lee? It's true, we were. When I began to talk about what was happening between my daughter and I didn't have one close friend who wasn't astounded that my daughter had rejected me. They went, not you. Lynn, I knew you when you were raising her. What's wrong with her? You were a great mother. I hope I'm not exaggerating, but I've got letters. They all wrote to me, too, and said, I don't see... one, Diana said, if it can happen to Lynn, it can happen to anybody. And what she meant was that I was so good as a mother. I loved my daughter. I sure did. And today I have no contact with her at all. And as I say that, I hope you can hear the tears
you
in my
focused on
voice.
that,
It's not the way it was
what the
supposed to
women were
happen.
doing.
So the women who were evangelical Christians, who really did everything they could to destroy what I was doing. I had hundreds of other women, or maybe thousands, 1,000 other women who were following me and who were helped. But, you focus on those who hurt you the most, don't you? And I've spent a lot of time focusing on those women. Lee, what was I just starting to say right then? Yeah.
Yes, we can.
Yeah, I did. Oh, I don't know. I was going to say something else. Anyway, yeah. What meant the most to me? We have wonderful. You guys are wonderful. We have people all over the world listening to our program every day. That counts. Believe me, it does. I don't want to lose that. And at the same time, what I recognize is that we're not helping parents who are suffering terribly. And Lee, you and I can help them better than maybe anybody else who's online. And, if some of you are therapists listening, you may be angry about hearing me say that. But I know of no other therapist or life coach who is willing to say, I'm an estranged parent and I'm hurting just like you are. It just doesn't happen. I know one man who says his daughter did reject him, but it isn't the same. Trust me, something's different. I don't think he hurt nearly as much as Lee and I have. And I respect him as a therapist. I like him.
Yes.
But there's a difference. Lee and I have been down and dirty, and it has hurt so much. Lee has cried many times while we've done a program about this subject, and I have too. I really don't know. I know that there are mental health therapists out there. I know that they're there and that they can help, but they haven't really experienced it. Not really. They don't really know the depth of pain and why a parent who's estranged considers taking their own life. Because they do, believe me, myself included. And you might say, Lynn, that's wrong. You're a therapist. You shouldn't do that. Don't you dare say that to me. I hurt so badly. I have never hurt that way over anything. Not having my family, and Thanksgiving is coming. Halloween was just there, last night or the night before? That was painful. I used to take my grandchildren trick-or-treating. I did that.
It's okay.
Loved being with them. I haven't seen them now in several years. And I wonder, what do they look like? God, I miss them. And so what I was saying was, I was an excellent mother. One of the letters one of my closest friends sent to me was, if it can happen to you, it can happen to anyone. She's a psychologist, and she is now in a position, because I've talked to her about what I've gone through. I wanted to train her and teach her what this was about, because she has a large client load of clients or patients. And I want to help other therapists do this. Lee, am I getting close to the end of the program? Okay. I'm sorry, Lee. I took you by surprise on this, but I was sure that you'd understand once I started. So I heard that yesterday. Then those were Bobby Kennedy's words. I don't know what Lee and I are going to do about that. I promise you we're not going to stop what we're doing. We absolutely love what we're doing. You know what, Lee? This is what's coming to me. Maybe we need to do 2 separate programs. Maybe we need to do one, and I don't know, you may not have time, but I know we need to do one to help people fall in love. I'm all for that. And that's reaching people all over the world. But we also need to do this other. It's in my heart, Lee. It's in my heart. I hurt for them. And the reason that I never finished the book, these women also said, you're a liar and you're a fraud. You have no book. Yes, I did. But the reason I didn't finish it is because it didn't have the ending I always thought it would have. I truly believed that the book I had written, and it's a good book, but I always believed that the ending would be that, and they all lived happily ever after. And it never happened. Yeah. And I couldn't end the book the way I wanted it to end. The other thing that I knew, because these women also put me down for not being able to just make it okay with my daughter and my son-in-law, but will you please all think, you evangelical Christians, will you please think about Jesus before he went to the cross? His people who were from his hometown did not follow him. They did not go with him. And they doubted that he was who he said he was. Well, there's a difference between my daughter and my son-in-law's respect for me.
Yeah.
I'm not their therapist.
Yes.
I'm the same as Leah's to her family. I'm the same as the other. I think that it's about 25% of all families. 1 out of 4 or 1 out of 5 parents is rejected by their family. It's enormous, and it's killing people. So I think I should probably end. I'm going to leave you in wondering, because Lee and I are going to talk about it and decide. I just got the idea, Lee, maybe what we need to do is 2 programs, meaning 2 different times, because I love what we're doing, and I know we're making a difference. We're helping them fall in love. It's okay, but I'm going to vote that we do 2 programs.
It is true.
I don't know what you're going to vote, but we need to talk about it anyway. Listen, I want you to hear me. Men and women out there, I love you. I do. I love you. I don't want to lose you. It delights me when you write to us and tell us that you've decided to get married, that you're in love, that your relationship has changed, and you're doing much better.
I love you also, and we have been absent for a couple of podcasts.
And at the
because
same time,
I had computer difficulties, and we're just now back. So the ones that have missed us, keep listening. We're hanging in there any way we can.
Rejected. That's true. I know it is. So I think God wanted me to hear that last night.
Love you You too. We're still here. We'll be back again tomorrow because now the computer's working. So remember, until tomorrow, it's always about love, and we love you.
If there are any of
Good
you
night,
who didn't
everyone.
get to watch that program last night, it was a good program. I'm done, Lee. I'm tired. And I love you all. Lee, I adore you. Yeah. I forgot I forgot to say that, Lee. Darn it. These poor people. I'm sorry, you guys. I love you all. Love you, Lee.